and I tell them how much money I'm making, they're like, "Oh my gosh, I need to buy a camera too." I'm like, "No, it doesn't work like that. It takes time and energy to learn, just like being a mechanic. Not anybody can fix things. You have to have the will and the desire to try to solve problems." So I create content for others, for myself, let it be photos, videos, podcasts, who knows? But I love it. But my full-time gig is that I'm a forklift mechanic. I work on industrial rolling equipment, that's forklift, industrial trucks, golf carts. If it has wheels and it's inside of a warehouse, I work on them. And it's great. And believe it or not, those two things, they have so many different parallels. And I think about it all the time. Recently, I was working on a specific truck, actually my truck, and I was changing the spark plugs. I was removing some bolts, and I ran into an issue where I needed to replace a roll pin, and I needed to hit the roll pin out with a punch. Now, it was a specific size needed for me to hit this roll pin out of this socket, this little hole. And I didn't have it. So I went to my local hardware store, couldn't find it, went on Amazon, and it was delivered quite literally the same day. And I was able to finish the job. And this happens a lot while I'm at work. It happens a lot when I'm working on my truck or my wife's car, replacing the spark plugs or brakes. There's always a specific tool. And as a content creator, I don't like saying that word. It kind of is annoying now. But as a photographer, podcast producer, videographer, there's always times where I actually need a specific tool to work on something. And those tools, people don't really like to think about camera equipment, audio equipment as tools, but quite literally they are. If I'm doing a sit-down interview at a doctor's office, I can't use a 200 millimeter lens. I can't use a crop sensor camera in a low light situation with no lights. I can't record audio in a non-furnished room without getting like some type of audio treatment. There's always going to be situations where you have to acquire the necessary tools. And it's so annoying when I'm talking to people who don't create content, people who don't vlog, or people who don't do anything or aren't really remotely interested in creating content. And I say, hey, I need to get like a new camera angle. Like I want to get a third camera. Don't you have enough? Like I hear that. Like recently I just purchased a new camera, the Sony A7 IV. Really good camera. I initially didn't want to look into it because I was kind of more so shooting more video, and I was kind of comfortable with the cameras that I have now, which is two Sony A7Cs and one Sony A7S II for video. And it was super great, super fun to use. But I don't necessarily like I don't like the A7C for photos. I like them, they're great, but I know that I can quite literally get a better image. That's why I still have my Nikons. And my Nikons are great. I have a Nikon D750 and a Nikon D3200. And those cameras are a workhorse and I love them. But when a client requires me to shoot a seminar for 1 hour, when a client requires me to shoot a video or do some type of different content outside of photography, my Nikon, which are mirrored cameras, they're not mirrorless, tend to not be the best for video, autofocus, a lot of different things, which is why I opted to get the Sony A7C. That's why I have two of them, because I love the capabilities that I'm getting as far as unlimited video. So if I have a job or if I have a job, gig, same thing. I know that I can trust my A7Cs to outperform my Nikon in the way that in that particular job. I was shooting a lot of seminars back in 2018, 2019. And the seminars were freaking killing me. Well, killing me in the sense of like lots of work, lots of time editing, but also killing me in the sense of I don't have the proper tools for this job. And my Nikon D750 with my Nikon D32s weren't really doing it. I had two D3200s and, well, I still do, and one D750. Great camera combo. Nikon family is fan-diddly-tastic. Really good. But my issue that I was running into was the recording time. So I had issues with recording limits. So what I would do was attach a Atomos Ninja Flame on top of my Nikon D750 to have longer record time. That was great, but I still have two other Nikon D3200s whose record limits are 24 minutes. So every time I would have to go in there and hit record because it'll stop recording. When I got my Sony A7S II shortly after, my seminars were great, but my issue that I was running into was color correcting the footage from the A7S II to all the Nikons, and it was brutal and annoying because the Nikons do not have any log capabilities whatsoever. You can shoot as flat as you want, but it's not going to match the Sony. So what I ended up doing was having my Sonys match the Nikon, and it worked. It was hard, but I got a system to work, and it worked. But there's obviously a better tool for the job. Like, I think about it, me as a mechanic, there are plenty, you can actually hammer a nail through a wall using a sandal if you want to. Would it be fast? No. Would it be efficient? No. Would it get the job done? Yeah, maybe. You can use a Nike because you probably have like a stronger sole at the bottom base, and you can use that to hammer it in. Would you make a mess on the wall? Yes. Damaging the wall. Would you get the nail in? Yes, you would, but it won't be done correctly. So when I opted to get a new camera, which was the A7C at that time, I said, well, my A7S II autofocus is great. Now I have to get another Sony camera that will match that color. It'll be really cool. So then shortly after getting a Sony A7C, I went and got another one. And that took my podcast production game, if you will, to a whole new level. And it has been really great. With the unlimited recording time, it was super fantastic. I'm able to record high quality videos and give it to the client, and it's great. Issue running into putting all of the footages together in Final Cut got super annoying. So I looked into finding a tool that will allow me to take the video signals from my cameras and put it onto my computer. A10 Mini. A10 Mini allows you to connect 4 HDMI inputs, and it has an out to send that signal to a device like Atomos Ninja Flame, or you can use the USB out to send it to a computer and live stream it. All right, I'm sending that signal to my computer. I want to live stream it. I want to do something with it. Here comes Ecamm Live. Here comes Riverside.fm. There's so many different tools, software, hardware, that will allow you to take your content creation to the next level. And quite literally, it's more like freedom. The thing is, when you have just your camera, just your phone, you can create as much content as you want. But for me, somebody who has just this wild imagination, even in my job as a mechanic, I think about different ways of solving problems. We have hydraulic leaks, especially within my car. I have I'm running into issues with roll pins. I'm running issues with cables. I want to run a power to my trunk so I can like plug stuff in. If I'm shooting a video, I want like video lights. I want to get like an outlet to plug in my truck. But I know how to do that. It's possible. When you have your camera, when you have like a peripheral and you aren't buying tools to do the job and you're just doing like makeshift things and you're just using window light, you're doing all these other things, you're kind of holding yourself back. Yeah, of course, like you're struggle creative, you're what is it called, like hustling, and you're doing the gutter styled where you just run and gun. I don't know the word for it. I know there's a word for it. But trust me, get the right tools for the job. And if you really like content creating, you know that it's work. It's fun, super fun. And that's where the confusion comes in. So when I tell friends, when I tell family, like, hey, I just spent this much money on my gear, they scoff and laugh. Oh, you could have spent this much money and put it into here. You could have done that. I would have done this instead. Don't you just have one camera? That's all you need, though. I'm like, no. If I'm producing podcasts for clients, I want to make sure that I have a camera angle for each, and each camera angle is the same manufacturer. I can set it up, set it and go, which is why I went and got a Sony A7 IV. And it's a great camera. Can't wait to mess around with it. But I just kind of want to leave that with y'all. Just the idea of having the right tools for the job, cameras, biking, hiking. There's always the right and the wrong way of doing something. And with photography and content creating, there's plenty of tools to get the job done. You just have to use them and acquire them. I'm not saying go out and spend money. I'm not saying go out and, get a credit card and max out your credit cards and all that stuff just to get the right microphone, get the right lighting. Get what makes sense for you. Get what makes sense for you. And right now, I wish, no lie, I kind of wish I started content creating in this space right now, because these cameras are so good. Like, are you kidding me? Like, these cameras are great. When I started photography, my first camera was a Nikon J1. No flip out screen, no 4K, just a micro 4/3 mirrorless camera. Then I got the D3200 at BJ's. I think it was Costco or BJ's or something like that. And these cameras are super limited. These were like very specific cameras, photography cameras. They shoot video, but they're mostly for photography. But I just want to leave y'all with that. Hope y'all enjoyed this little story time with me. It's a podcast episode, I guess. But I'm going to put it out on YouTube and see what happens. I hope y'all get this at least. It's okay to treat because I don't even want to call it a hobby. I don't want to call it, because I don't want to call it like a fun thing to do. Because when you throw hobby in it, there might be some like negative connotations, maybe in my mind. But when I tell people that I create content, there's always this scoff, belittling. Maybe it's just in my head, but I see it a lot in people when I tell them, hey, this is what I want to acquire. They don't really understand it. But then when I tell them how much money I'm making, they're like, oh my gosh, I need to buy a camera too. I'm like, no, it doesn't work like that. It takes time and energy to learn, just like being a mechanic. Not anybody can fix things. You have to have the will and the desire to try to solve problems. And as a content creator, the problems that I run into is, low light, bad audio, bad video composition. How can we fix this setup to make it look good, sound good, and be deliverable to clients or to me or to people on YouTube that I'll never probably meet? But yeah, just want to leave y'all with that. Hope y'all enjoy it. Have a good day. You know what to do in the comments. Comment down below. Do you agree, disagree? Do you like my stories? All right, y'all.